Okay, so I think we should start. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for being today with us. So we have a great opportunity to hear the information about the second open call for the innovation studies, and the information will be provided by Guy Lonsdale, CEO of Scapos and partner of the FFplus project, who will actually guide you through the call information. I would like to inform you that this webinar will be recorded. And the second thing is that if you would like to if you have any kind of questions, of course, and you would like to get answers, you're always welcome to type in the question in the chat box. And after the presentation, you will also give the opportunity to ask questions directly. Enjoy the webinar, and Guy, if you're ready, we can start.
Okay. So good morning, everybody. Good morning to my colleagues from the FFplus project as well. Thank you for joining us today. What I'll talk about, I'll give you an introduction to the Fortissimo approach. This FFplus is not the first Fortissimo project. And I'll introduce a little bit of HPC for business innovation and the core outputs from the Fortissimo projects, which are the Fortissimo success stories. Then I'll go into the details about the current call. The call opened on December 3rd. And this is the second call for innovation studies, which targets the development of generative AI models and generative AI technology in general, by SMEs in Europe. And I'll explain the objectives and expectations we have, but also a number of funding and eligibility issues. And then I'll talk about the information sources available and the submission procedure, which has changed. So for those of you involved in previous calls, there is a lot of new information about how we're going to operate the evaluation. So Fortissimo's project started back in 2013. They were, in a sense, a reaction to the financial crisis at that time. The European Commission said, we need to do something to support European industry and SMEs in particular. So they started the Factories of the Future initiative. And the first two projects ran under the framework of that initiative within a group of projects looking at ICT innovation for manufacturing SMEs. So the initial Fortissimo projects were really targeting manufacturing. That is no longer the case. It's it's open much more generally. But the point was, there were some political issues there that remain. The large amount of funding being put into HPC, and more now than ever, is not just about big science, but it's also about supporting European industry. And so that was a key issue for the Fortissimo projects in the past and for the current one. Under the Euro HPC joint undertaking, the first Fortissimo project was called FF for Euro HPC. FF stands for Fortissimo. And what you see there, it allowed over 40 high quality experiments. And I'll explain what we mean by experiments or business experiments in a minute. We had 8 million budget funding. And what we see now is that FFplus is 3 times the volume of that project. But it still had quite a focus on manufacturing SMEs. So we actually had something like 57% coming from manufacturing. The general approach of Fortissimo, and I never tire of saying this is not about blue sky research. We're not targeting academia at all. We're not targeting big science. We're targeting SMEs who have the possibility to address a business challenge using or HPC or developing their technology with HPC, which is what's new in the innovation studies. So the bulk of the funding I mentioned is used for these, what we used to call experiments, business experiments. Now we call them also innovation studies. I'll explain the difference. And they're targeting enhancing the innovation of European SMEs. The way we do that is, of course, we want to support the SMEs involved in the project, but the bigger picture is that we want to promote the use of HPC amongst the ecosystem of SMEs in Europe. So the way we do that is producing high quality success stories that explain the business impact. And those success stories are the main outputs from the project. And they are in multimedia form. So we have printed success stories, but we also have videos and brochures and booklets about those. And there's a lot more information you can find via the FFplus website or the previous websites. But a couple of examples. What you never find here is a description of this is the parallel scale up we get, this is the performance, this is the technical aspect. No, what we're promoting is what did it mean for that SME in terms of business benefit. So were they able to shorten their product delivery time, shorten their R&D cycles, reduce costs in production, produce better products? In this case, it was in greater accuracy of the 3D printers that they're producing. And as a result, creating new jobs and openings for highly skilled employees. It's not just about manufacturing, it's about a wide range of business opportunities and market sectors. In this case, this is about aquaculture. And the targets that they have was actually improving the technology that we're using. And that led to improvement in the health of the fish that they were producing in the aquaculture, and improvements for their business. Those are the main things. There are a lot of examples provided in prior success stories, and I would encourage you to have a look at the material on the web pages, but also check out our YouTube channel. There are some interesting videos now, some more recent success stories and recent developments in the FFplus project. FFplus has, these are the project details. We have a very compact set of beneficiaries, the FFplus partners. The project's led by HLRS, University of Stuttgart, started in May 2024, and the planned duration is 48 months. It's funded by the Euro HPC Joint Undertaking through a Digital Europe funding program. The target is to empower SMEs and startups to enhance their innovation potential. So that's an important aspect, particularly for the innovation studies, where we're saying we're giving you the possibility to investigate the use of large-scale systems to develop your AI technologies. We expect that to be an improvement and enhancement of the innovation potential of the SME. That will be an expectation we have. We, in total, in FFplus, will have 6 open calls, or 6 sub-calls. We've already executed 2 of those last year. One of them is the second call, business expense, is ongoing. And what we're talking about today is the second call for innovation studies. I've just mentioned the business experiments evaluation is ongoing for the second call. We received a lot of submissions for that. So it actually quite an oversubscription. We received 350 submissions. That means actually that the success rate for the business experiments will be low because we're only able to fund up to 4 million euros. And so that is an aspect of the great interest in the FFplus project and the open calls. The evaluation is ongoing, as I said, and we expect to be able to announce results in second quarter 2026. Today, we're talking about innovation studies. So business experiments are about using HPC to solve a business challenge in a very general sense, any sort of SME business challenge. The innovation studies are very much more focused, and we're looking to support European SMEs and startups active in the field of generative AI technology, but they are looking to scale up the computing resources that they're using. So implicitly, we're looking for ICT SMEs. So we're looking for SMEs with expertise in developing AI technology. From the first call, we were very pleased with the response to the first call for such projects. We received 62 proposals from a large number of countries, and we were happy to be able to fund 18 of those from 14 countries around Europe. But you see that there is room for improvement in the set of countries engaged in FFplus, and we're hoping that this call will see a broader engagement of SMEs across the participating member states and associated countries. We are targeting SMEs, so there will be consortia that involve the main SME, but supported by other organisations. But our focus is on small and medium-sized enterprises, under which startups also count. We had a range of application areas whose business drove the development of AI technologies. So all of these were looking at various aspects of AI technology, but addressing markets in a range of areas. In particular, healthcare and life sciences pharma was particularly well represented, ICT companies, but also finance category. So a range of application areas. There is no restriction on the targets you have for your business. But obviously, we're looking for AI-driven technologies. So, of course, since we announced the fact we're looking at large language models, generative AI, foundation models, these come up quite clearly when we look at the technologies being used, but a range of other technologies for AI being used as well. So that was the past, but now coming to the future. The current call for innovation studies, the second call, and our abbreviation is Call 2 Type 2. There is not a fixed submission date. We will close the call when 250 proposals have been received, or at the latest February 25th. So whichever point in time is earlier. Either the call will be closed at 1700 hours Brussels time on the 25th, or at the point in time when we receive 250 proposals. This is linked to the possibility that we have for evaluating a large number of proposals in the timeframes of the project. The proposal submission, although all the information is available now on the webpage, the proposal submission tool will only be opened on February the 3rd at 9 o'clock Brussels time. So proposers can start working on the proposals, but submission from February 3rd. As before, the expected duration of innovation studies is 10 months. And given the evaluation period, we expect to be able to start on or around September 1st. As before, the indicative total funding budget for this call is 4 million euros. So that's 4 million euros funding. The objectives are to support the SME technology development of AI in Europe. So we want to strengthen European SMEs in the area of generative AI. We call these sub-project innovation studies, and they should be driven by the business needs. So again, it's not a research topic. This is my business, and this is why using generative AI and AI technology will enhance my business. We're looking for the SMEs to enhance their innovation potential, particularly for the SME main participant. I'll explain that phrase later. But that's an important aspect. We don't want them just to be doing business as normal, if they're already developing things and just want to do a bit more. We want to see an enhancement of the innovation potential through the use of large-scale European HPC systems. That's an important point. It's a core requirement. There is an expectation that you're using large-scale resources to develop your generative AI models, such as foundation and large language models. There is a special aspect of the innovation studies that it is possible to take part in more than one tranche of sub-projects. So it's expressly foreseen that successful innovation studies are able to submit a proposal for an extension of the work in a subsequent call. And for that, they need to provide a status report and an outlook report on impact at the 7th month of their innovation study. There are more details in the announcement, but just as an information, only the top 70% will be allowed to, eligible to submit an extension proposal to what would be for this call. This would be the 3rd call for innovation studies. So what are our expectations for proposals? And I would really recommend or ask that everybody looks very carefully at the call announcement for the details, where we explain the objectives and expectations. So the proposals should be aligned with the call objectives. They really should explain and justify the business challenge or the business prospect. Why do generative AI technology provide the solution? Why do you need new model development? Why this is timely for your business expansion? And what are the obstacles that you need to overcome? As already mentioned, what we expect it to be using large-scale HPC. So what's the expected business impact of doing that? And how would you continue to use HPC? What's the path to success? We expect you to define the specific objectives needed in terms of the machine learning lifecycle, and the objectives that would address the business challenge that you're presenting in the proposal, and the proposal work plan that meets that challenge. Address the aspect of training data. Where will you get the data sets required to develop your models? What are the types of models that you're going to develop? What are the characteristics? What does this mean for the training tasks and the exploitation possibilities you have? Explain the performance metrics. What benchmarks might you use to establish baselines? On how would you ensure reproducibility? And address the aspects linked to the EU expectations for trustworthy AI. That's your job to look at those aspects and make sure that you're compliant with any applicable EU guidelines or laws. An important point is that the proposal should define the resources and the associated costs linked to the proposed work plan. Demonstrate how the resources you allocate address the needs and fill the gaps in the current process that you have. And this includes potentially HPC resources. That's a special issue, and I'll go into that in a moment. We do expect you to take account of the fact that you should be delivering a data management plan or considerations for a data management plan. We do not expect you to deliver that with the proposal, noting there are strict rules on the page length of proposals. But it's something you should be taking account of in your proposal, explaining what your policy is, what the issues are for your data management plan, and addressing that within the work plan. And of course, I've already mentioned it, the key output for us as a project are the set of success stories. So there is a requirement that the successful proposals, sub-projects that are funded, assist us by providing multimedia material that is public, that can be published for the success stories. We do understand that the innovation studies will include commercial and competence aspects, but we do need to be able to give us results also aligned with the business challenge that we can publish. So coming now to HPC computing resources, I'll say it again in a moment, but the project cannot provide HPC computing resources. We cannot provide access to systems for you. There is the expectation from the joint undertaking, that the use of their systems it underlies the FFplus sub-projects. So there is an expectation that you will use either their resources or nationally funded resources, which are provided free of charge. So to summarize that, There is the expectation that you apply for access to the Euro HPC GU systems provided free of charge, or nationally provisioned HPC resources, similarly free of charge. There is a lot of information on the Euro HPC GU website, and it's regularly updated. In fact, there are two types of access schemes there. The one that is most appropriate for the innovation studies, which are addressing AI technologies, are the AI Factories access codes. And I'll give you some information rather quickly, but from the JU in a moment. We hope that the HPC National Competence Centres will be able to help provide assistance to SMEs about the right sort of systems to be using. And so please reach out to your National Competence Centre for HPC if you have any questions or uncertainties about the systems. I've already mentioned it, we can't provide resources. And I've said there's the expectation to use free of use services. However, it is possible within a proposal, within a sub-project, to use third-party commercial HPC resources. That's permissible. But when suitably justified and the costs included in your proposed budget. When suitably justified means it is up to you as a proposer to explain why the choice is necessary and appropriate, why you are not applying to use free resources from the Euro HPC GU, for example. Similarly, it is possible for you to include an HPC center within the consortium of your proposal. Obviously, if they're providing computing resources for free, there's no issue. But that supporting participant might charge for the computing resources that you would use as an SME. So if that's the case, and you justify the choice very clearly, then the HPC costs charged to the sub-project would have to be based on actual costs and not on commercial rates, because it's the HPC Centre would be given Digital Europe funding for those costs. And the costs should be included with the experiments budget as other direct costs of the partner providing the resources. So it's not being invoiced between partners of a consortium. I will go through the next slides rather quickly. They were provided to us by the JU last summer, so they're slightly out of date, but I think the really relevant information is still correct. The Euro HPC JU is involved in together with the member states procuring infrastructure and then providing access to those systems. So they have a set of access modes for access for users to the systems, with a peer review process or a review process. It's not always peer review in the classical sense. They distinguish between the Euro HPC supercomputers and the Euro HPC AI factories. In fact, the AI factories are also supercomputers. There is also quantum systems, but they're not relevant for the FFplus project. It would be possible for you to apply to access to the traditional HPC, but the process there is not as useful for the AI technology developers as the AI factory access codes. So our recommendation is that you use the AI factory access mechanisms. And they have, and I'll go into the playground fast lane large scale in a moment, they have very fast turnaround times with decisions taken by the AI factories themselves, who are aware of the importance of industrial use and addressing business challenges. So a strong recommendation, please look at the AI factory access codes. Any organization from a member state or a country associated with the Digital Europe program is eligible to apply for use of the Euro HPC systems. jump through these. The traditional HPC access mode is not so relevant, but you've got the slides will be in the slide set that you've provided. But the important thing to say is for the AI Factories Access Scheme, you have a number of fast reaction options. And as you go from playground to large scale, the number of GPU hours that you can apply for increases. But in all cases, the turnaround time that's been announced is really very fast. So the recommendation is that you don't now apply for access at the time of writing a proposal, because as I said, we expect the evaluation not to be finished before late summer. But with these sort of turnaround times, it would be possible for you to wait until you get the decision from FFplus as to whether or not we'll be able to fund your proposal. I'm going to jump through these. There are some support services offered by Euro HPC projects, and there's more. You'll be able to look at those two projects specifically. The Epicure projects are particularly relevant if you have time to skip through. Okay, so that was a very fast presentation of slides from the Euro HPC GU. They're available on the FFplus website. I'm coming back now to the specific conditions for the current call to innovation studies. So these are open to organizations established either in an EU member state or in a country which is associated to the Digital Europe programme. And the association agreement should be entered in force before the submission deadline of the call, so before 25th of February. All such organizations are eligible to receive funding. For SMEs that belong to a country not based in those eligible countries, it is possible if they're based in well, let's take an example. I'm based in Germany. So an SME in Germany that belongs to a country outside is eligible to participate as long as the work is done in Germany. We do not fund individuals, so we're only funding organizations. So natural persons are not eligible to receive funding. We have a distinction between main participants and supporting participant. A main participant is an SME or startup whose business challenge, so relating to the development of generative AI, is addressed by the proposed work. So it's all about that SME main participant. We're interested in the business innovation of that SME, and the success story will focus on that SME. It is possible, when justified, to have supporting participants, and that would be the case if you need some technological support to do the work in the work plan. For instance, extended HPC expertise. So supporting participants are those that are helping the main participant achieve the objectives. The proposals should be submitted by a main participant and optionally up to 2 supporting participants. So the maximum number of consortium partners is 3. There is a restriction on the type of activities allowed for eligible for funding by a supporting participant. So actually only technical or engineering activities. So things like business consultancy, marketing actions, administrative work, or non-engineering activities are not eligible for funding. And as a detail, no FFplus beneficiary, I showed the names of the companies earlier, none of them are eligible to participate in a sub-project. What are the funding conditions? So if you are funded, you will get a funding agreement with the coordinator of the FFplus project, the University of Stuttgart. So you'll become third parties to the FFplus project. And you as third parties will receive 100% funding of the incurred eligible direct costs. And the costs necessary to perform the completion of the innovation study work. No indirect costs or overheads can be paid. We're not allowed to pay you indirect costs. So it's only the direct costs arising from doing the work. The maximum duration of expense is 10 months. And The maximum funding for the SME main participant is €200,000. If the consortium includes supporting participants, then there is an increase of the consortium budget up to a maximum of 300,000. The conditions for supporting participants are somewhat complicated. So under this current call, a supporting participant might participate in multiple innovation studies, but the maximum funding that's eligible for a supporting participant under this call is €150,000. And over all innovation studies, for all three tranches of innovation studies funded by the FFplus project, it's 300,000. So supporting participants must look very carefully about what level of funding they may get from multiple studies. There is the expectation that at least 50% of the funding should go to the main participant. It's not a strict requirement, but any deviation from this must be duly justified. And once again, duly justified means it is up to the proposer to explain why this is appropriate and necessary in the proposal. Your job to explain that. We have specific budget modules that we're allowed to fund. And the important note is at the bottom, there is no subcontracting allowed. So subcontracting is not eligible to be funded by the FFplus project. For the personnel costs, the personnel costs should be commensurate with the work to be formed in the work plan. So it should be aligned with that. Equipment is only depreciation costs and only specialized equipment needed to perform the work. We will not reimburse costs for standard equipment such as laptops or monitors, etc. Travel needs to be justified with relation to the necessity for performing the work in the work plan you define. So if the work plan doesn't foresee the need for travel, then the travel costs are not eligible. We've already talked about HPC compute resources. They need to be justified. And as we said, there's an expectation to use the cost-free JU systems. You need to duly justify why you're not doing that. Other material costs are possible. So if, for example, you need to acquire specialized software licenses, those are eligible costs, but of course not standard office costs, like I'm looking at my machine here, the use of Microsoft Office or such. So that software is not allowed. Similarly, acquiring data sets necessary to perform the work, those costs are also eligible. We use 3 evaluation criteria. They have not changed since the last call. The first, impact. So it's covering the proposed innovation studies, prospects for innovation, commercial viability, and potentially also societal relevance. We expect you to present a vision of success and the value creation, value proposition, aligned with the business model of the SME, and explain the exploitation plans that you have. Remembering the alignment with the core. So impact is about the business impact and the business relevance for the SME organization. Excellence covers both conceptual and technical excellence. So conceptual excellence means, is it sound? Are the plans for bridging the gap to ensure enhancement of innovation clearly explained, clearly documented? And technical excellence includes a clear and concise description of the technical challenges to be met. The implementation includes the quality of the work plan and information about the data management plan, and also the distribution of the resources to participants within the consortium, and the capacity of the proposers to perform the work that they laid out. So it's the quality of the consortium or the quality of the competences of the organizations are covered within the implementation criteria. Each one of these is scored is assigned a score between 0 and 5, 5 being the maximum. So the maximum score you could get would be 15. We set a threshold of a score of 10 for proposals to be eligible for funding, and a minimum score of 3 on each of the individual criteria. Each criteria is equally weighted, but at the end of the evaluation, we perform a ranking of the proposals based on scores, and proposals with equal scores, we would then use the priority: impact, excellence, implementation, and finally the total requested funding. Details are also included in the call announcement. So some of this I've already mentioned. The proposal submission is possible starting on February 3rd. The call will be closed either at the point in time when we receive 250 proposals, or at 1700 Brussels time on February 25th. Submissions in English as ever, and the electronic submission is achieved using the tool which is accessible via the FFplus website. You won't find it at the moment. That's opened and available from February 3rd. We have quite strict requirements for how the proposal should be submitted. You need to submit a spreadsheet and a PDF document, and we really require to be compliant with the instructions on this proposal structure. So, for example, the budget information in those two documents should be consistent. There's a lot of details in the call announcement. Please read that announcement very carefully. Only include information in Part A that's requested. Please do not change the template at all. If there are major deviations in what you submit, we will reject it without evaluation. And we have a strict rule on the length of the Part B. So excluding the cover page, the maximum page limit is 30 pages, and we're really strict about that. Please don't include any other information, specifically not references. If you want to include references to material, it has to be within 13 pages. Please adhere to that, because otherwise the proposal will be rejected without being evaluated. So the submission and the evaluation procedure, I'm going to explain it. It's different than has been used in the past. It's been extended. So following proposal submission, there will be an admissibility eligibility check of the proposal, and we will check those conditions I've just been talking about. So we'll look at the eligibility to receive funding, and constraints about that, and constraints about the proposal. After that, there is a potentially two-stage process. If we do indeed use the two-stage evaluation, there will be an initial ranking of proposals. Both cases performed by using external expert evaluators. And after that first stage, there will be a reduced evaluation summary provided to the proposers. The second stage of a subset of the proposals will be included in a consensus-based final evaluation, producing a final list for ranking with which we perform the funding decision. So when we will use a two-stage process, this will happen if you receive more than 100 proposals. If we receive less than 100 proposals, we will drop the first stage. But if we receive more, we will perform the two-stage evaluation. The first stage, as I mentioned, based on the individual assessments and scores of the experts, will provide an initial ranking of the proposals. And then we will take the top proposals into the second stage, which is a consensus review process, where a consensus position of the two experts is created, and the consensus report forms the evaluation summary report, which is provided to proposers and underlines the decision for funding. How many will we take? Well, we will take up to 3 times the volume of requested funding that we're able to fund. So as I mentioned, we said the indicative funding budget is 4 million, so we would expect to take the top proposals in the initial ranking up to a requested funding of approximately 12 million euros. There is a lot of information available on the website. You can see the link here. The core document, which you really all should read very carefully, is the call announcement and proposals guide. That's the definitive document for the call. Then there are the proposal templates that you should use, provided on the web page, and then further information. So we have frequently asked questions. Typically, we get questions through these webinars, and we try and provide answers to such questions that others can read. So the FAQ is there, and there is also a proposal evaluator checklist. That checklist is something we give to the experts. So it's a set of questions to the experts that they should consider when providing their evaluation. So my tip for you is, if I'm telling the experts these are the questions to be answered, you should look at those questions and say, have I answered them in my proposal? So it's a very important document. And from February 3rd, the web page will give you access to the proposal submission tool. If despite all the material that's there, you still have questions of generic nature, we don't answer questions about content. So evaluation of your proposal and concerning the details of what you want to do, we don't answer questions that for anybody, but we answer generic questions. And there you have an email address that you can use to get support for generic questions. With which I have come to the end of the presentation.